In the quarterfinals, one of these two teams will make it to the final 8 to play on Friday at minimum. And well, would you look at that, Evil Geniuses immediately banning Blitz, and that is a direct counter ban. That is a direct counter ban to none other than Falco, who has been playing Blitz almost exclusively, if not for every single round so far this tournament, and that is going to force him onto another role.
So Glaz also being banned out by Millenium, and Falco calling it right now, Fuse Shield. So he saw the gauntlet being thrown down with the Blitz ban from EG, and he's just in the chat, he's just like, oh, I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. I'll play Fuse Shield. That's what's gonna happen, man. And I don't know if it's actually gonna happen, but he has claimed it will.
Well, I mean, Fuse is a poor man's substitute for Blitz.
Whoa, tell that to Hicks.
Okay. Hicks, he's a poor man's substitute for Blitz.
Oh my gosh.
Maestro getting banned as well from Millenium, taking him out of action. This will likely set Evil Geniuses up to ban Miro, which means that that one kitchen site we were talking about, so many of those strategies involving reinforcing one of the walls, putting an Evil Eye camera on it, it will likely be gone. We'll see if Evil Geniuses has what it takes to ban Mira or not. There she is right there. She just popped up for just a second.
The fade in, but will she be locked in? Nope, it'll be Echo.
Interesting. So Mira will remain. I would say that, yeah, losing Maestro and Echo is tough, but Amira being on Coastline, that gives defenders more of an opportunity to possibly prevail on defense than if she was banned. That's my hot take for the day.
I mean, Echo Maestro ban makes a lot of sense too. Either one of them.
Especially Echo. This is a map where we see a lot of Echo play. Very strong, long angles for him to take fights with that ACOG. Of course, the Bearing 9 for close range.
I mean, Maestro and Echo in competitive basically do the same thing. Echo just has a lot more information gathering potential. The big difference is Echo's mobile, and then the Maestro is, he can see through smokes and do actual damage. And it's a trade-off, it's whatever you want to go for. So, Millenium, the French team, going up against Evil Geniuses, the American team. Well, North American team.
North American team. There's a Canadian on it.
Mm-hmm. And they will be going to the Penthouse Theater for the first defensive round. They've also brought Canadian on Pulse, as is pretty typical. He is an excellent Pulse player, and he is going to have a field day, I'm sure, C4ing people from below. There's a lot of potential for that on this site. Millenium has to be wary. Big thing here, Lion left unbanned. And we haven't seen a whole lot of matches where Lion gets left unbanned and is also played. But Millenium already just starting things off with a Lion pick. There's no Fuse Shield, so Paco lied to us.
10 seconds to insertion.
I mean, you've got Renshiro and Blackbeard, that's pretty standard. I think, if I recall correctly, we see Blackbeard get banned a fair number of times when Millenium is playing for pretty obvious reasons. It was actually Canadian who, when talking about Renshiro on the Blackbeard, whether he's running the DMR or the Scar, he's going to be running the Scar there, as it did see a buff, absolutely, and
yeah.
The DMR did see a bit of a nerf.
I mean,
Canadian's exact words about Renshiro were, the guy just doesn't miss.
Yeah, and when you're not missing and you have a shield in front of your face, what can happen is you can win all of your fights. It's crazy. So he's going to lose the first one. Necrox takes him down with relative ease, and already a bad start for Millenium.
The way that Coastline is played by a lot of European teams is they typically will play a bit more methodical, whether they're on attack or defense. This was something that Rogue did against Team Secret yesterday. Rogue was very, very aggressive on Coastline against Team Secret. And Team Secret didn't really look like they knew how to handle that unbridled aggression from Rogue, playing cheeky peeks, popping up when you wouldn't expect it, that sort of deal. I can definitely see a team like Evil Geniuses running that exact same strategy. Also because Evil Geniuses do sometimes play that kind of peek everything, run at you, even when it might not be the smartest idea every single time style of play.
They can tend to, they can play it. I mean, as you know, Evil Geniuses is one of those teams that is good at maneuvering their strategy when it's necessary. They've got the ability to come off of that strategy and do something else, but already a bait and switch there between Necrox and Young. Necrox getting aggressive as you talked about, peeking into the guitar hallway, and then Young able to get the kill as soon as Necrox's opponent, Rise, peeked into him. You can see LZP, though, going to be moving his way into VIP.
Liven absolutely loving running names that confuse us when we look at it, but that's okay. He's going to just toss a couple grenades in all the way through the bathroom, and it looks like Hicks has been team killed by Liven. Apparently he had frozen in place. Unfortunate, but the Mira will be dispatched by Liven through that soft wall, playing by the Mira window. Falco is in, but could possibly be gassed by the bomb. He'll look all the way towards the theater, but can't get out of the penthouse as he gets a couple shots onto his body, and then the smoke is there to finish him off, and NVK eliminating Liven will be the final kill needed for Evil Geniuses to take round number 1.
Solid defense there from EG. Unfortunate that one of the Millenium players maybe was not participating in the round for whatever reason. And all that aside, it was looking bad for Millenium from the get-go. As soon as they lost their Blackbeard on Repel, things started getting out of hand. You follow that up with the engagement in guitar, and you're losing more bodies. And Millenium didn't have a whole lot to work with when they were going for their actual site push. Interesting that they put no emphasis on VIP wall. They didn't even try to open it up and go for potential, smoke plants or anything along those lines. I think they were attempting to do a heavy emphasis on the the main window and just plant in the corner, which can work. But again, Blackbeard dead beginning of round.
Yeah, you got to think that a big part of getting that plant off successfully is having Renshiro play on that window and completely deny your ability as a defense to rotate out of penthouse into master bedroom. Or out of theater into penthouse, my apologies. So losing that Blackbeard meant that the cornerstone of your attack is gone in 30 seconds. It makes it a little bit difficult for you to stick to the strategy that you had laid out, because I think for most people it's very difficult to understand just how important that Blackbeard is on that window. Maybe not even necessarily Blackbeard, maybe a Glaz too, or possibly another operator with a high-power rifle that can sit there and just spray. And of course Blackbeard is in a great position because, as you mentioned, he happens to have a pane of glass in front of his face that prevents him from getting headshotted for a couple bullets.
Yeah, now it's a pane of glass. It used to be indestructible. It's a hunk of metal that you could see through. And now it's a pane of glass. But a well-balanced pane of glass indeed. And he has 2 of them if he needs them. So the big conversation with Blackbeard now, after the MK17 damage buff and the nerf to the SR25, you use the DMR usually if you're going to be playing static positions, so like on repels and stuff like that.
Right.
And then you'll use the MK17 if you're going to be a little bit more dynamic. He actually saw a bit of a buff recently where he received a 30% off of his movement speed reduction, so he moves a lot faster with that shield deployed, and that makes him a much more versatile operator. In trade-off of losing a tiny bit of that shield for the mobility. 10 points of HP. It was a pretty big move, and then of course buffing his assault rifle as well. But I mean, I also think that was needed because the DMR of the Blackbeard was just so outlandishly powerful. It still is. I mean, you saw a 10 damage reduction, I want to say, or thereabouts on the DMR, but it's still mostly the same TTK or STK as it was in the past. First phone call, or first Lion is going to go out. My apologies. And Hicks, whose name is HicksYZ, will eliminate Canadian, and that was the Pulse that was playing on Roams. Now you've got Necrox playing off on Pink, and NVK situated, just waiting to see if somebody's going to push him in Aqua. Renshiro has been holding this position downstairs in Sunrise Bar, watching the drop hatch, and can be rewarded for his patience if Necrox peaks, which he will, but Renshiro, who I said just doesn't miss, will miss the head of the Jaeger, and it's Rise who will be dispatched to go get Necrox, but will get taken out as NVK also gets a kill onto Falco. That was the Sledge playing, and now an advantage that Millenium had is now gone in favor of Evil Geniuses as they are sitting in a 4v3. Oh. Liven, or LZP, I'm going to call him LZP, that's what he wants to be called apparently, playing downstairs in the south office. He's got a good position here to cut off rotation, and you can see the rest of his teammates are focusing on pushing the roamers towards LZP. But I don't know if there's enough time to make this happen. With only 35 seconds on the clock, Millenium, down one man, are going to have to fight directly against the Evil Geniuses anchors now, as those roamers have come back to site. Inside the main lobby, you have the Legion of BC, who gets eliminated by LZP, and now he's got control over Bathroom. This is a really great position to have, but it's being stopped by the gas canisters. Young with the shotgun also gets Renshiro, so he's doing a lot of work right now for his squad. The last two attackers moving their way in through delivery. Pistol out right now, no time to reload. He does get the headshot onto Young, that was very clean, goes for a follow-up, and will get the down onto Yanger, but NVK finally manages to finish him off. The last player on the attack, Hicks, in the post plant, 1 versus 1 against NVK. This is potentially winnable for either player, but obviously Hicks has a huge advantage, and that is the timer is in his favor. NVK going for the peek. He's got to really guess on these angles, but the pre-fire from Hicks is actually giving away his position. NVK still looks a little uncertain. He comes out raw with the SMG-12. He's looking for the fight. He knows where his opponent is, goes for the pre-fire, but cannot land the shot. NVK goes down. Hicks, with the detection, thanks to NVK being outside, will get that final kill and lock out the round. The first one for Millenium, 1-1.
And look at that, the defense, or the attempt, my apologies, the defense losing a round. What a shocker. So Kitchen will remain in a position where Evil Geniuses can go back there. It does look like they will do that. Unbelievable that that round was saved by Liven walking in with the pistol out and getting 2 big kills. That GIGN pistol is very deceptively strong. I know that a lot of people will run the revolver in place of that pistol just because, well, it's a revolver.
Revolvers are fun.
Revolvers are fun. They're cool. And the revolver is not a weak weapon if you can land your shots. But of course, the pistol having a larger magazine size is not a bad choice by any stretch of the imagination. And I think Liven knew that he needed to take that engagement at a much closer range than he could have with his assault rifle out.
So, even split so far, although that last round did certainly look like it was in Evil Genius's favor, just slipping away at the last moment. Evil Geniuses will go back to the kitchen, as you said, because they did lose here. They are able to defend it once more.
Bomb located by attackers.
And I gotta say, probably the right decision considering how well they defended it last time. Again, EG really had the round going in their favor, and then suddenly, you know, last two attackers come in through delivery. They managed to get the defuse plant, and they play the post perfectly.
There was also the fact that Evil Geniuses were stacked up, pushing in through Bathroom together.
Oh, yeah.
You were funneling in. It was a very one-dimensional retake. Given an extra couple seconds, they might have been able to work through that soft wall and then have somebody else push through the bathroom door towards that delivery/service area, but I mean, just unable to actually have that happen, as Liven got very aggressive as the plant went down, which was the absolute right call. So the French will equalize, and now we'll give Evil Geniuses another crack at the kitchen service area to see if they can do anything different this time.
Got the very similar roam strategy, pretty much the same thing they did last time, and last time it worked out great for them. This time though, it looks like Millenium is putting a very big emphasis on taking out these roamers. The EE1D forcing Jaeger, that's Necrox, to stand still, and Rise will finish him off. Good teamwork there for Millenium, the drones, the marks, and the EE1D all contributing to that.
Excellent entry. You had 2 people droning and appeared, then you also had 2 do entry work alongside the Lion. That is a predicament that Necrox and NVK don't really find themselves walking away from alive. Necrox, of course, does not. NVK has managed to get back downstairs, and Canadian working his way closer towards the site as he plays just aggressively inside a Sunrise bar. This allowed Millenium, though, to take almost complete control of that second floor and can begin to clamp down on Evil Geniuses. Of course, having the Zofia and, Canadian just missing not enough damage as he takes an engagement on those Cool Vibe stairs. He'll be held for 4 seconds as Lion's final motion detection gadget will go off. We've got Rise, who will exist with about 15 HP. Playing inside a hookah, he'll drop through the open hatch, go for a pre-fire onto Canadian, knowing that the Valkyrie is there. It's a very high-powered weapon. Canadian will miss his C4, and then Rise, a beautiful shot to take Canadian out and blow open an even larger lead, just like the wall, as he works his way back out of Sunrise Bar. NVK right now sitting in the main lobby, trying to watch if anybody's going to push from Sunrise Bar, but he gets thrown down and will need to move.
He's see Ranchero aware of that position that MVK is playing, and he's looking for the angle. But MVK has chosen to relocate. Looks like he's moving his way upstairs, and Liven is there to catch him. BC gets the long angle onto Ranchero as he pushes into the main lobby, and now BC the one to take up NVK's mantle and look for the fights in the main lobby. But equally, he peeks into someone he is not prepared to fight, and Falco takes that one, leaving Young, the final defender, playing inside of A. He's got the gas canisters, but he's being disrupted by those Zofia lifelines, and Falco will hit the nearly hip fire, but just in the middle of the scope transition headshot, finishing the round, and Millenium will be up 2-1.
That's slow ADS speed, looking very similar to some trick shots that we used to have seen in other particular titles, so to speak.
Yes.
Yes, very, very, very close to those kinds of trick shots.
Stop it.
No.
So Millenium, they've been looking really good.
And you're also going to see now that maybe we won't go back to Kitchen. Penthouse is back, unlocked for Evil Geniuses, and that's where they are going to place their stake for round number 4. They've only got 2 rounds left, so if they win on Penthouse here, they will have to go to another site for just 1 more round, and that will be that.
I gotta say, I agree with the decision to change the sites after losing 2 on Kitchen. You know, some teams will just try to force it out. Evil Geniuses did try to force out 1 round after a loss, but that didn't work out for them, and they're going to think better now, finally going to back to the Penthouse. Now, they could have gone to anywhere else. We always talk about Coastline, you know. Every single one of the sites is technically defensible, but they seem to only want to play Penthouse and Kitchen right now, and Penthouse whenever available. See Canadian back on the pulse, so he can play C4 from below, and again, he's very proficient at that as an individual. Yeah, so, okay, said Ranchero doesn't miss, and he hasn't gotten a kill yet, but they've also rotated him off of Blackbeard. So now Falco's been playing Blackbeard. I believe he also played it last round.
10 seconds. He did. Yeah. And if I recall correctly, whenever we saw Blackbeard getting banned, Ranchero would often play either Hibana or Lion, I want to say, in previous matchups. So this is a role that shouldn't be too foreign to him. You've taken Falco off of Blitz and you put another shield in front of his face. That's going to be the Blackbeard. You can empower that style of play. I mean, it worked last round. Falco was able to collect a double.
Plus, if you do happen to be missing in the moment, then yeah, it doesn't matter if you miss necessarily if you're playing Lion. You could just influence the round by pressing a button when it matters the most. So Hicks on Repel. He's probably just going to be opening up the drop down. You don't really need the X-Caros for too much here. It can be handy if you're not going for a VIP wall take. So clearly Millenium doesn't put a lot of stock in a VIP wall take, and it actually makes a lot of sense because guess who's on the other team? Canadian. What does Canadian like to play? Pulse. Where is he going to be playing it? From below. So VIP becomes kind of a minefield at that point, and you really don't want to be dealing with that. So smart play, I'd say, for Millenium, shifting away from that take, and we'll see if it works.
Could possibly use the Hibana as well on the theater wall, too, to try and put pressure on them there. Yep. It would also force both the players on the mirrors to have to vacate because the mirrors are going to be facing the other way, which is an advantageous position to find yourself in. Young is going to get the first kill. It's on to Rise. So the Zofia and all of those lifelines will no longer be accessible to Millenium, which means that the ADSs that NVK have might become a lot more valuable now.
Absolutely. Harder to clear them out with less projectiles. Quite a lot less.
A lot less, and that's one of the things that Zofia is capable of accomplishing as well. If Liven happens to have both, whoops, IQ doesn't have frag grenades.
Ooh, that feels bad, man. EE1E gonna be going down, and Ranchero looking for the angle onto Young. The marks are coming, but the frags will not. Liven gets down as he attempts to challenge the main hallway. A little flurry of action here. Necrox a rush into Guitar, and he gets 2, but cannot get the 3rd. Falco in a great position to get the refrag. Ranchero has dropped into Bathroom, and these are the last 2 attackers in a 2 versus 4. It's not looking great. They still have to face these mirror windows. Oh, what a pre-fire from Ranchero! And he starts his push into the site. The one still active mirror window. And the C4 from below, I believe, or just in front even.
But you've still got Canadian possibly playing below with that C4 and it's moved upstairs, my apologies. But if they know that Falco's repelled out on that window, they could possibly go for a run out at some point and try to take him down. They don't really need to get that aggressive. There's only 30 seconds left. Trying to figure out where it is. They know they've got Diffuser down in Red Hall. Guitar, that is going to be a major stumbling block for Millenium right now. Falco's going to have to either drop through the bathroom or look to rotate, but he's only got 10 seconds to go. He'll drop and just try to take an engagement. A lot of patience from BC. The call just needs to be made that he's pushing out a bathroom. Falco, in an act of desperation, will shoot away at the soft wall, but every single member of EG will hide. Falco does get the deg on the NVK, but it's a very low impact frag, and both times that EG will go to Penthouse, they will prevail. They'll have to go to another site as we enter the final round of Evil Geniuses defense and Millennium's final round on attack.
We've only got 2 sites so far, and it looks like they're going to continue that. Going to Kitchen as their final bomb site. They have not managed to make Kitchen work for them yet, and Millenium want to keep that going as long as they can. Now, whoever wins this round will take the first half, and if Evil Geniuses can manage to get it away, again, this being kind of an attacker-favored map, that will put them in a great position when they transition over to attack themselves. Operator selection, nothing terribly surprising here. However, we do have Liven using an Ashe, which is not exactly normal anymore. An operator that doesn't see much. Well, she's actually been kind of played a lot at this LAN event. It's a little bit weird.
I was going to say, Ashe has seen this strange resurgence in popularity over the last 24 hours. Maybe it's just because we've talked about how the LAN build is different. Maybe Ashe just feels different this time around, but I'm not entirely certain. That's not a call that I'm comfortable making, but teams are finding good uses for her.
I can tell you that the game is a lot more responsive on LAN, and operator speed values become a little bit less relevant. But she has the complete package, and for sometimes when you're like struggling to transition from that online environment to that LAN environment, you might want to pick up an Ashe because it's gonna help fill the gaps that the big divide between online and LAN, on an individual level.
Right.
Now, speaking of the gap, Evil Geniuses. They've got a huge gap between themselves and winning Kitchen. They've managed to lose it twice now, and it's been pretty decisive for Millenium every time they've managed to take this site. The big question is, can EG change that? Because it doesn't look like they were even close last couple attempts.
So final round of the split here, Michael, for both teams. Plenty of utility, though I am kind of amazed at that Millenium is going with such a frag-heavy role. I mean, yes, the Blackbeard and the Zofia are going to be great fragging operators. The Ashe is going to be your primary frag getter as Liven. There's not actually as much utility on Millenium as other compositions that they could have bothered to run with. They will be able to freeze people in place and then also hammer them with the lifeline, but outside of that, it's pretty much all just fragging all the way down.
I mean, I would say there's very little utility. It's, as you said, pretty much, if we're talking about pure utility, not soft destruction, not disruption, but like utility, you've got Lion and the Hard Reacher. That's pretty much, those are the forms of utility you have.
You can make an argument, I think, that Zofia is.
Well, like I said, just ignoring the Zofia and Ashe.
Right.
If we really look at them, they're more fragging operators. I mean, Zofia's kind of a hybrid, if you want to look at it that way, but either way, it's less dedicated than a lot. Point being, very little utility. You're right. Vertical control established here for Millenium. They're going to start opening up a lot of holes and started going for that pressure. The missed opportunities via missed shots there from Liven. Their EE1D was popped, so there was potential for a kill.
They did it a bit too late. BC's able to get out of there with his lives still intact, and Renshiro falling as the Lion means that will be the lone EE1D that is used for the Blackbeard of Falco from above. Tear through Young. Young didn't need to take that fight, but he did, getting a bit too brazen, and he'll pay for it. Falco, not a scratch on him, though rises down from NVK, and Evil Geniuses will take some damage to both NVK and BC, but overall, you got a minute left, and you've still got an opportunity to just wait them out. there hasn't really been a concerted push towards the site from Millenium just yet. That's why you're seeing Hicks work away at the long reinforced wall just by bathroom. Liven and Falco are going to have to get closer to the site because they're running out of time. And you can see that Hicks is working his way up. He has opened up that wall. He's got some barbed wire waiting to greet him in the bathroom door.
Yeah. Evil Geniuses set up well to potentially get their very first kitchen defense. And you can see Falco's going to start his push in through delivery. The Gershmat will give away his position, but it doesn't look like anyone's able to capitalize. He will also hit some Legion traps, and he's going to have to pull that out of his foot. Liven is pretty far away from the engagement, but he's trying to cut off rotation. He will be unsuccessful in that endeavor, but Falco does compensate. BC gets a double kill, the two players pushing in through delivery, leaving Liven the last attacker, and there is no time. Evil Geniuses will take the first half, 3-2 their favor on Coastline of all maps.
So the defenders walking away with over half of the rounds on the first split is a pretty big feather in your cap for Evil Geniuses. That round was single-handedly won, I want to say, by BC. First and foremost, his ability to evade the Lion and the Ash charge that was opened up the floor above him or the ceiling above him. Very important. But then getting those two clutch kills, managing to outduel two pretty proficient shooters from Millenium. Not an easy task to do, and he did it. Putting him, and that right there was the big difference maker. And I know what they were trying to do with Liven upstairs. They were trying to make sure that he could cover all of those open holes, make sure that there were no rotations, but his job was to kill BC, and he failed at doing it.
Yeah, ultimately. He even had an Ash charge right above him during an EE1D. You know, it's perfect timing for a kill, but it didn't happen. Unfortunate, that's for sure, but Millenium can still recover. This is still just the second half of the first map. There is yet time. Millenium will start with the double bar defense. Evil Geniuses, also a very fragger-heavy lineup. They've actually got a just oddly similar lineup on attack to what Millenium was running as well. And for the defense, it's a little bit of a change. Obviously, we're going to a different site, so you need different operators. Castle going to be a pretty big one for Millenium. He's going to be able to delay quite a lot on those pushes upstairs, as well as just make it so if you need to avoid a particular flank, he can be of assistance in that regard. We've also seen some strategies from some teams in Coastline where the Castle on double bar defense will just draw lines through the middle of the map on the first floor. So you can reinforce the two doorways, and then suddenly there's a lot more maneuverability. But I don't know if that's exactly what Millenium's trying to pull off right now.
Not entirely certain, but the first time that we are going to see a site that is not penthouse and kitchen. The double bars has been an interesting place for teams to play. Of course, having the smoke available from Hicks is going to be of major importance to ensure that this push that's going to come through that main foyer, which is the door that Young just worked away at knocking down, doesn't bear as much fruit as they want.
I mean, it's an open door, right? Could potentially lead to opportunities, but we'll find out. NVK on the northwest balcony, going to be pressuring into Hookah. It's a very powerful position to hold Hookah. It allows you to deny the Sunrise Bar plant later in the round, and MVK obviously, as a result, needs to do something about that. Right now, I believe it's Rise who's playing in there, and he has a good position with a mirror window facing towards Billiards, but he's going to be confronted with some bad fights as NVK starts moving his way in through the door and gets the kill.
Rise not having the greatest start to today is the first casualty for Millenium with about half of the round to go. Both teams, at least from what we've seen so far, both teams have taken their sweet time addressing the roam on that second floor. BC, whose projectiles are always on point, will manage to take care of Falco with that frag grenade being tossed in. That's good usage. One gadget for one kill. That's the Legion gone from Millenium, and Evil Geniuses finds themselves already with an advantage, but a great peek from Renshiro through the barricade as Young tries to open it up. The Necrox on the stairs will take out Hicks, so both teams will lose one. A C4 from Renshiro will just miss. BC very narrowly loses it to that Nitro cell. There's a minute to go and only two members of Millenium. Renshiro pushing up on the Cool Vibe stairs. An EE1D could possibly spell his undoing, but he's got his guns trained at the stairs. Canadian eliminates Liven, and Renshiro is the last man standing.
And after being detected, it is very unlikely he will survive. He's full flashed right now, and he is starting to fall his way back to the Sunrise Bar. He has all the kills for his team thus far, but it'd be hard to get another 3. Canadian able to get that final kill from inside of the Sunrise Bar, and Evil Geniuses will take the first round of the second half, putting themselves up 4-2.
Vector's a great weapon, don't get me wrong, but taking 2 to 3 possible enemies, not exactly going to be useful with the small size of that magazine. Especially when you're in a position where they also have to potentially go for the plan and can push you from 2 separate angles. After going down 3-2 in the first half, Millenium is going to take a timeout. And this team is better than how they've played so far. I'm not certain how much the change of adding Falco has changed the actual team as a whole. But just the way that they're playing, that free-flowing movement that we've seen from Millenium in the past, they are one of the more aggressive European teams too, typically. It hasn't really been there for them.
No, it certainly has not. It seems like they're panicking a little bit, possibly. But Evil Geniuses, on the other hand, have been playing exceptionally well, as we expect from EG, but also, you know, a little bit better than, honestly, than usual. They've had not the perfect season so far in the Pro League. And we all know, I think, that Evil Geniuses is a bit of a LAN team, but still, this tactical pause hopefully will be enough for Millenium to start their recovery.
2 of the teams that have been to the most lands over the last little while as well. I mean, Millenium has been to the French lands. They were in DreamHack Austin. They were in DreamHack Valencia. They went to Atlantic City. This is a team that, with really the exception of the 6 Invitational, they've been at every single land since then. So pretty incredible for them. We also do have an update on another match, so spoilers inbound, close your ears. Fnatic has defeated Mocket by a score of 2-1, and Mocket are done. Their time at the Paris Major is no more. Fnatic will play Ninjas in Pajamas tomorrow in a pretty exciting rematch, I would imagine, with the winner of that matchup going into the quarterfinals.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi.
So, Millenium going to be sitting up on Kitchen. A different site indeed, but we've been seeing it quite a lot from Evil Geniuses. This is the first time we're seeing it from Millenium, as they just went to the double bar. Kind of hoping for a little bit more site diversity, maybe a hookah defense. Would be neat, but I seriously doubt at this point that we'll make our way to that site in this match. Maybe in overtime, if we get there. Before then, though, the setup coming from Millenium, you can see they're going to be investing heavily in the top floor. There's a Mira in play, and Evil Geniuses have accordingly brought Canadian on that Twitch, an operator that directly counters the Mira windows.
I'm still amazed more than anything that Mira remained unbanned, but this is going to be fast. E1D goes, but Renshiro greets Necrox as the opening push goes in. Plant does appear to be going down, but there's no coverage at all. Evil Genius is trying to ape the strategy. Renshiro with 3, but NVK is there, and Canadian will pick up a pair themselves, meaning that it's 3v2. Still an advantage in favor of Millenium. That all-or-nothing strat to try to get a plant down in the doorway of service or delivery, not going anywhere. And now NVK and Canadian will have to regroup and figure out a new strategy to deal with the 3 remaining members of Millenium.
And they'll do their best. NVK coming in through the front door. The big thing here for the EG players is that they have 2 whole minutes to work with, and that's a lot of time for an attacker. Canadian looking to potentially get some of those mirror windows, but also other gadgetry. That's not good to be missing those zaps. Of course, you don't have as many anymore. Just 5 per drone, and already 2 used up. He's going to spot out the smoke who's playing in storage and call that out to his teammate who is just behind, pushing his way into bathroom. This could potentially be a really easy kill, depending on what Liven is looking at right now. But he's going to continue to play safe inside of storage, and he's actually aware of the pressure from NVK and will detonate a gas canister accordingly.
Now, because this mirror window's opened up, you can see the Canadian will have a long angle to possibly play at, but the impact hole that is above them will be possible cause for concern. NVK will very slowly work his way up the pulse on the other side of the wall. NVK will be greeted by the smoke of Liven. Will go for a pre-fire to Trinity, maybe try to draw somebody out, and The shotgun of Liven will be a fatal matchup for NVK, depending on how he plays this. You had Canadian also upstairs to make sure it was clear, but now that F2 just in a position to possibly get a kill, but it's Liven who'll pull out his SMG. 11 Canadian down, and NVK last man standing. He'll get a kill on the Liven, but there's still 2 more to go. Where is Rise? That will be the big question. Some concussive blasts from NVK will go, and Rise looking to flank. He'll spray through the wall. A good read. And that is Millenium using their bodies to shut down Evil Geniuses, knowing that they could have a pinch. And pinch NVK they shall. That was a big round for Millenium. They needed that win.
They absolutely did, and it actually looked like there might have been a recovery for EG. They stacked up far too few players on the delivery push. If you're going to be going for a delivery push, you need there to be enough manpower to pull it off. And there just wasn't. EG got shredded by just Renshiro, the 3K. And from there was really not a whole lot of chance at a recovery.
I mean, are we also going to just ignore the fact that entire strategy was to just rush into service, but they didn't do it with any smokes?
See, that's the thing, is that the strategy can work. They just executed it poorly, is what I was trying to get at.
Very poor execution. There
was not a lot of utility usage, as you said. There also wasn't enough manpower investment in the actual strategy. You saw MVK and Canadian, the reason they survived is they were far field in Sunrise Bar and over by Hookah. So
attackers need to locate and
definitely no, not a great strat from EG. And Millenium able to seize the opportunity and get the win.
You are not G2. You are not ninjas in pajamas. It won't work. A pretty even spread for all the players on these teams, though, so everybody pulling their weight in terms of killing potential. Outside of that, I haven't really seen anything glaringly obvious that needs to potentially be moved on or reworked for either of these teams. So,
no, they've been both playing pretty well. That's, I think, the nature of this matchup. You've got two pretty big titans playing against each other between a Millenium and Evil Geniuses. Some of the best, or two of the best teams in all the world.
Possible spawn peek here for Rise is that's all too common when you see an ACOG get trotted out from the defenders to know that there's likely going to be a potential peek at some point, but who knows exactly what Rise is going to do. At least opening up those windows will give some pause to the attackers. As is typical, they won't know exactly where they might get peeked from, especially if they know that there's a potential ACOG on the board. That could slow them down. Anywho, we saw Young manage to work his way to the top of the roof, looking for a Valkyrie cam. Very common to try to see a Valkyrie cam tossed out onto that palm tree that is in the midst of the courtyard, or that you can throw to from that open skylight in the courtyard.
Yeah, lots of information to be gathered that way. Pretty common to play Valkyrie on coastline as well, as you said. MVK moving his way into VIP. There, you can see the objective here for Evil Geniuses is just to clear out as many roamers as possible. We are actually seeing Hookah, which is the first time it will be played on this map thus far. EE1G utilized here by Evil Geniuses. Rise has to stand still at the top of lobby stairs. Pretty much a really easy kill for Necrox. Using those drones, using his EE1D to secure it. Well done indeed, and that's an easy frag. Millenium really should not have had one of their roamers all the way over by the top of main stairs. That was a poor position to be played.
And he'd been playing there since the prep phase as well. Renshiro, who's actually having probably the best day of anybody on his team, will continue to rack him up as NVK. The Zofia will be the opening death for Evil Geniuses. Necrox will burn his second motion detector drone to keep everybody from moving. Suspecting that somebody might be playing in security, we saw that the Legion of Falco is playing down in offices. He's going to continuously move. That's Necrox who'll crouch walk his way in, but I don't think he's going to be quick enough to see where Falco possibly could be. You've also got the Valkyrie of Liven playing in the bathroom downstairs. So, you mentioned Hookah. We got a pretty big investment in 2 of the 4 bodies of Millenium being quite far offside.
Canadian and his teammate moving into Aqua, but actually Canadian's going to start rotating off of that. You would have expected an Aqua push at this situation, but he knows Falco is downstairs in Blue Bar, and he apparently wants to take that fight. He's going to move over to the northwest balcony. Actually, I think he did a little bit of damage just now through the barricade to Renshiro. Just one bullet seemingly hit around the thigh area. Renshiro's looking for the fight. Very dangerous thing to challenge. He has been hitting his shots though, so it could work. 20 seconds left, and Renshiro will not hit his shots this time. Canadian manages to get the Mira. That is expected in an engagement like that, but look at the time. As Falco gets Canadian, that's a lot of the backwards pressure alleviated and allows Hicks to get an easy kill onto BC. Necrox also trying to push in from Aqua, and he will actually get the win. Wow, 2 for Necrox, and he's got site control. But it's a 1 versus 1 on 0-0-0. The C4 from below will likely hit the mark. Live in with the clutch, and Millenium will take another round, putting them on 4-4.
Biggest mistake that Evil Geniuses made was not bothering to secure the position of the roamers whatsoever. They did not, I don't even see if they knew where Valkyrie was. I'm not entirely certain. However, it didn't really matter. You've got a Valkyrie or a Pulse playing beneath the site. Yeah, you're probably going to anticipate that you're going to get blown sky high with a C4, likely having that intel, especially if they knew where they dropped the diffuser, which they did indeed know that. And with Necrox being the last man alive and the clock at 0, you're left with next to no options other than plant, lose, or die.
And that was such a nice try from Necrox as well. That's the real big bummer. He managed to get the player on a mirror window, an intact mirror window, across the field from him, and then also the immediate rush. Given the clock, that rush made sense from the Millenium defender. But then Liven downstairs with the C4, there's not really much he can do about that, especially, considering he has to plant the diffuser. Now, double bar going to be the next hold for Millenium, and this is actually a site that they have not managed to win yet. They went to it once before, but it was a victory for Evil Geniuses. In fact, it was the last victory that Evil Geniuses managed to get. So this could be Evil Geniuses putting us onto match point, unless Millenium has managed to adapt, and I'm sure they have.
There's no reason why Hicks, who's playing behind that mirror window, though, trying to fight against Necrox, needed to take that engagement. He didn't necessarily need to toss his life away like that, and he really shouldn't have lost. I mean, Necrox is pushing a mirror window with the person behind it, who was Hicks in this position, trying to jiggle his way around that black mirror. Necrox really should not have won that fight. Falco playing around the bomb should have been able to possibly push up and take Necrox out while Hicks was also returning fire, but Necrox got both of them. That was pivotal. Obviously, it was all for naught. As well, the lack of a Lion ban here is showing you how much reliance Evil Geniuses will put on him. They've been running a Lion regularly, and maybe not the best usage, especially on that one push that we saw in Kitchen and Delivery. But when you've got a Lion on the board, they use it to secure a free kill on Rise. You basically traded one use of your gadget to get a freebie on your opponent. That's a pretty good trade-off a lot of the times, especially with how many teams do squander the potential that the EE1D of a Lion gives you.
I mean, I can tell you also, like, playing a Lion in general is kind of a risk because as an operator, he very rarely is left unbanned these days. And he's very useful, yes, but he can become a crutch. You have to be careful of not allowing him to go that way. But of course, EG very good at playing without Lion. Although he's available, so why not? I think is the conversation here. But in other situations, yeah, definitely got to be aware of the potential for him being a crutch. So, BC opening up the castle barricade into Hookah. That's going to apply some pressure to the roamer of Rise, who's playing that position. He has played this pretty well so far. We've seen this defense before, but last time I believe it was MBK just walked in on Sophia and managed to get the kill. E1D countered by the gas canisters. Flashbangs going out, though, to follow it up. Necrox can eat a little bit of damage, and there's no actual push coming. Rise is going to actually just fall back to site. Necrox will get Falco, the Legion, so that's a very important kill, but there will not be a follow-up onto Rise. No complete disadvantage here for Millenium. They've just lost top floor control.
Losing top 4 control with about half of the round to go is a much quicker pace than we've seen from certain teams. Dokkaebi phone call will keep Millenium still for a couple seconds while they reset their devices and allow Evil Geniuses to take more map control away as they enter in through the building. As well, what that push did was force Hicks to exhaust 2 of his Toxic Babes, which will leave him with a lowered utility from here on out. You still have the C4s available, as we just saw, prepped and ready in the hand of Renshiro as he looks possibly in a position to launch one up through the open hatch, but there's a lot of the ceiling that is open above Renshiro, and it will force him to have to keep moving. A great shot on the Necrox. Mistakenly thinks that his falling body is another person and goes for a second one tap. He landed it, congratulations, but unfortunately, you can only kill him once.
Renshiro's really been hitting his shots today. BC with a nade will get Hicks playing just underneath the stairs. Perfectly timed and perfectly placed. He's going for another one. He sees Renshiro, but cannot land the shot, but he forces Renshiro into Canadian's line of sight. And Evil Geniuses now have a very decisive lead, but Rise could be the playmake to get this back in his team's favor if he just peaks at the right moment, which is now, but he's losing the opportunity. He will get MVK, very important frag, but now his position is given away. BC is still inside of Hookah, and he's going to actually just drop into the site, reading the situation, knowing that Rise is above. There's only one potential anchor, and that's Liven. Liven will get BC, but he's got to fight against his own mirror window. As he pushes towards Sunrise Bar, Rise has run outside, and he is now the last defender. He was detected, he's vaulted back in. And from behind, the Zofia will be using a lifeline to disrupt the castle. Doesn't even need to take the fight. Just play off time. The diffuser is planted. It's all in the hands of the attackers right now. And as Rise goes outside yet again, he cannot find the fight that he oh so very needs. He looks upstairs. Cannot get the engagement. Canadian from the hallway will shut down Rise and win the round for his team.
Good coordination from Evil Geniuses, and Rise just that bit of hesitation. I don't think he had any calls and was going in blind, unaware if somebody was potentially watching flank on Cool Vibes, and I think that's a pretty good bet to make. We knew that there was a body playing on Cool Vibe stairs. The presumption was that he knew as well. The body that was there on Cool Vibe stairs could have potentially been doing that hard hold flank watch, in which Rise would have just given his position away. Of course, they were on a drone, and as he pushed, he got the kill. BC dropping through the hatch could have been next on deck, but as you said, he read the situation appropriately. But more importantly, they read the clock appropriately. They were running out of time, and they needed to get their execute underway. Even though Liven almost came close to equalizing it, it was still a winnable situation for Millenium. But in terms of the actual post plan, it was handled perfectly by Evil Geniuses and was basically an unwinnable situation from Rise, outside of 2 incredibly skilled shots.
You gotta say though, BC's rotation downstairs, really great play. You know, I'd say about 7 out of 10 pro players stay upstairs and try to take that fight with the roamer, and they waste too much time, and their teammate is unable to plant the diffuser. But BC read it right, and he played it right. He allowed for his teammate to plant the diffuser deep inside of Sunrise, and now Millenium are the ones on the back foot. 5-4, Evil Geniuses' favor. And here's the big thing. They lost 2 rounds in a row, and they only just now started to rekindle their fire. So they're going to have to keep that going as they attack onto Kitchen. Last time they attacked Kitchen, it was, well, it's pretty bad. They pushed 3 people in through delivery and 2 over by Sunrise Bar. And the last 2 over by Sunrise Bar were the only ones left standing after about 40 seconds had transpired. A little bit of a rush strategy. Not really a rush strategy, just more of an aggressive push in through delivery, and it didn't work out for him. They'll have to adapt a little bit here to make changes.
Give Millenium credit for a couple things, but on top of that, the way that they've been setting up and constructing these holds upstairs are unlike a lot of other teams in the way that we've seen, especially Coastline in particular, which we have seen a lot of Coastline over the last day. I think that's part of why we see Evil Geniuses taking a while to be able to clear this out, and why I also think that, you know, Millenium is taking longer to clear it out from Evil Geniuses, because, as I mentioned earlier on, the way that European teams typically play...
Well,
all right!
So he can drone out his teammate now, I guess, and, you know, in a way, he can be very useful droning from the other side of the building. Necrox will take out Hicks. So a very good kill there onto the Pulse. That means that a lot of information is no longer being gathered for Millenium. They also haven't been playing much Valkyrie yet today.
BC will take out Rise, and Necrox eliminating Live, and I'm not exactly certain what happened, but that drone throw appeared to have been a big difference maker. E1D and phone calls mean that Falco, as he sprints, will be graded into NVK's waiting arms. That'll leave Renshiro in an ace clutch situation with the match on the line, and his phone will go off again. Anybody in close proximity will be alerted to his position, as EG will just take their time. They just need to plot into the site. They got 90 seconds. Renshiro, with that Vector, as noted earlier, doesn't exactly have the largest magazine capacity to be able to take down multiple opponents in quick succession. She's no Ella, let's put it that way. But Renshiro just waiting for the push. He'll see the drone from Canadian. He'll completely miss, and inside a kitchen, NVK will get the kill onto Renshiro. That'll be it for Millenium on map number 1. EG will take it by a score of 6-3, it appears. Unless my
6-4.
6-4. I don't know how to do math.
Well, I believe Millenium won the Fuka defense.
That is correct.
So
that's correct. I put we keep track on the columns. I put it in the wrong column.
Oh, whoops.
Whoops. So there we go. It's fixed now. But anywho, we got Oregon next for us.
Necrox dropping 12 frags for his team.
Very quietly doing that. It seemed like he was able to get close to almost 2 a round, and that was really handy. Using the E1Ds, then getting droned in by the rest of his team.
Very well done. Very well done, Amar. Now, Coastline done.
It's a golf clap.
Evil Geniuses, they only went to 2 sites, interestingly. Let's take a look at the highlights while we talk about this. They only went to 2 sites, interestingly, but they managed to still do pretty well on defense. They got 3 rounds on defense, 2 on Penthouse, 1 on Kitchen. Kitchen, if it weren't for Kitchen, actually, this would have been a really, really decisive match in EG's favor. It probably would have been more like a 6-2. But because they failed to defend Kitchen twice, it became a bit of a struggle.
I saw a lot of things from Millenium that I really, really liked. Now, keep in mind with a roster change this close to an event, they do need to change some aspects of their playstyle. Falco coming in, having to either learn or create new strats with him involved, losing Yogurts, a player who is not having a great season statistically. In fact, Yogurts was actually one of the worst performers stats-wise in all of the European Pro League so far this season. So at least adding Falco could be some much-needed firepower, let alone his actual chemistry with the team. But you always got to see how a team does with a roster change so close to the event, whether it's going to give them a potential higher ceiling that they might get to as this event goes on, or if it's something that they might not unleash, ever unleash that full potential.
With Falco, I want to say it gives him a higher ceiling. Falco's a really good player. He's been around for a long time. He's got more experience than most.
He's a champion.
He is, yeah, he has won a couple seasons, so he does have what it takes, and I think he's going to add to the team. Yogurt's also a good player, but he was, like you said, he was not having the best season, hasn't had the best recent performance, and it makes a lot of sense.
Awesome dude, by the way.
Awesome dude, yeah, definitely.
Kind of miss that he's not here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But it does make, Falco makes a lot of sense. I don't think he's going to hurt the team too much, though. You are right. Roster changes always mess up synergy, even if you're adding the best player in the world to your roster.
Fabian.
Fabian, of course. Yeah, even if you're doing that, it's still going to mess with your team synergy.
Yeah. So they're playing well. They had a good run yesterday. The fact that they were able to do as well on Coastline with Evil Geniuses speaks volumes, especially like we said with that roster change. I think we would have been looking at a completely different outlook of Oregon. Now, yesterday I said that Oregon was a map that we haven't seen Evil Geniuses be the best on, and I might have been wrong, because it's a map that they have played multiple teams on. And I went back and I rewatched a couple VODs. I looked at some stats. They're not that bad at Oregon. They're actually pretty decent at Oregon now, but they had a run of time there where their Oregon looked shaky in comparison to other teams. How is it going to stack up against Millenium is a real question. Obviously, they're probably going to ban Blitz to take care of Falco. And then what?
Well, see, to me, Parker, Evil Geniuses aren't really an Oregon team. They're okay at Oregon, but the thing is they tend to play against teams that are really good at Oregon quite a lot. Because Oregon's just one of those maps, man. It's the type of map that people really do enjoy playing. And so when it gets brought, usually one team or another in the match will be extremely proficient at it.
BC once described Coastline as the map where good teams go to lose, and I've had a couple other different members of different teams say the same of Oregon too. It's a map where good teams go and get upended by strategies from teams that maybe they might be able to beat on other maps, depending on the way that the operator bans go. With how evenly matched these two teams are, you can't turn around and say that, hey, you know, the better team is going to go and lose. No, I have a feeling that the better team is probably going to win here, be it the French or be it the North Americans. I would love to also hear the team comms right now to know exactly what's going down on Millenium, because, you know, they have to understand and they have to know that they have somebody new to the team. There are going to be some growing pains. Of course, you'd ideally like to get those growing pains out of the way before you're seated here in a LAN setting. But if you don't have the opportunity to do so, you know that the group stages are a good opportunity for you to at least try and close that gap with the new addition of your team.
Well, it's going to happen no matter what, right? Eventually, in some way or another. And this might be the place for it to happen. You can see everybody getting ready for that next map. And we'll see how it actually turns out once we get to it. Coastline was a lot more one-sided, honestly, than I expected it to be. I was anticipating it going all the way to overtime, and I was thinking Millenium even had a slight edge there. Now, the fact that Evil Geniuses managed to take it means that as we go into Oregon, I think they're going to be really happy with the outcome of the previous map. And obviously coming off of a loss, but I think it's more like, you know, you're playing the long game, you're thinking about all three maps, and Coastline is one that if you can manage to get the win, oh boy, will it feel good. Now, Dokabi, first ban out there from Millenium. Interesting choice. It's going to hurt the attack onto the main lobby basement quite a lot. Evil Geniuses yet again banning Blitz, like you said, to counter Falco. That makes tons of sense considering how well Falco played on Blitz yesterday.
And it's an operator that can also be very frustrating to deal with, especially if you're really good at it. Now, if you build an entire composition around it, which we've seen Millenium do, you enable a lot of power in an already powerful operator. Taking Dokabi out makes sense for Millenium because they know that both the Lion and the Dokabi were major issues for them last time, but because you know that Millenium runs a Lion, it makes sense for them to take Dokabi out rather than take Lion out. A mute being banned as well is interesting, but I mean, a mute ban.
Oh, no, mute makes a ton of sense. Oregon. Basement,
Right, but teams would just, I mean, I guess this opens up to take a Thatcher. They would just take a Thatcher every single time if there was a mute in play, because we've seen, I'm mostly just confused by the fact that usually we would see a Thatcher ban, and then the mute ban would be in response to that as the operator bans went on. But there was no Thatcher ban, so I was a bit surprised to see the mute.
It also does force out a Thatcher pick eventually. Like,
that is true. That is very true.
You're gonna, first of all, like you're probably gonna get the first defense of the basement like for free because you'll 6-pick into the mute, or you would 6-pick in the, or rather, excuse me, you would 6-pick in the mute, right? And then that forces out the Thatcher pick. Defenders, so not having the mute means that there is that whole thing just doesn't happen, and attacking the basement is going to be a lot easier. You don't necessarily have to bring a Thatcher. You should. You mean
you don't have to bring a Capcan either, but Millenium is going to do that. They've got Hicks on Legion. They move Falco to the Capcan role on Kid's Dorm. This will be intriguing to see exactly how he uses these 5 entry denial devices, or EDDs, as they are known in shorthand.
I don't really know what to think about the Capcan pick. I guess they're just trying to slow down the pace a little bit. It does do that. You're going to get 1 or 2 detonations, and then Evil Genius is going to be like, hey, they have Capcan, check your doorways. And then as soon as EG starts checking their doorways, it will slow down the attack a little bit. Let's also bring in this shotgun. The Sask is a really good shotgun. It's undervalued because it's on 2 operators that are bad, but it's a good shotgun.
Commonly referred to as the sausage.
Sausage gun, yeah.
The SASG.
Could you put the suppressor on there?
Yes. It'll be... I mean, Falco will likely have to take very, very close engagements and fight in CQC combat because that thing has very, very high damage drop-off, does widespread and does next to no damage from quite a ways away. So imagine him being somewhat aggressive. And actually, the fact that Capkin quite a while back got changed from a 3-armor 1-speed to a 2-armor 2-speed has at least put him in a position where he can close gaps faster, obviously not the quickest possible. 2 of those X-Kairos rounds that Young has on his Hibana will be used to open up the lockers/showers wall, give them a ability to potentially control the bottom away stairs. The last round of X-Kairos will be used on the Mira window, which will open things up in the Mira. Of Renshiro will peek, and as good as we say he is when he hits his shots, he won't land them there. Young gets a kill and will also manage to take out an EDD to try and prevent the rest of his team from sustaining any real damage as they walk through any doorways unwittingly.
Well, it seems like the call's been made before even the first detonation of the Capcan, which means it will not be useful in this round. EE1D going to be used here. Force the defenders to stand still, but no information to act on here from Evil Geniuses. So they're just going to throw out their drones and look for the fights. Young will take out Rise, very long angle there, and Rise peeking in, kind of unfortunately for him there. Falco gets the first kill for his team onto Necrox, using the shotgun through the smoke. MVK though, immediate refrag. Hicks and Liven, the last 2 defenders, but they are in the dream duo positions, if I'm not mistaken, of Dorms and top of White. As we've talked about before, those are the spots where you can really just hold out this site. Looks like Liven is actually going to be playing over by the main west window. Since he knows the attack's coming from below, you can still hold White from the position he's playing, so technically he's playing White, but he's not on it.
And of course, as you said, this is the power position for these 2 because you have to be funneled in through one of 2 very tight corridors. You don't have the ability to destruct the environment the way you need to, but BC will toss up his final frag grenade as it will get eaten by an ADS. Hicks will drop through the hatch and is in a very ideal position to possibly get a flank kill. However, he gets spotted on an active drone. EG is in and has complete sight control, but Liven at the big window will just miss the Lion. He'll pull out the shotgun, blast MVK down, but there will be a lot of bullets. BC, oh no, the team kill. Hicks trying to work his way up the top of White Stairs. All that they need to do is get the plant down or secure the final kill, and BC will do the latter to give Evil Geniuses round number 1 here on Oregon. With that C8, just bobbling.
Gotta say though, really sloppy round from both teams, Evil Geniuses and Millenium alike. With Millenium, Legion falling downstairs called out. That meant that the rest of EG knew there was a singular defender on the site, and all they needed to do was collapse all at once. That singular defender being the smoke playing window, and let's just say Liven wasn't in the best position to hold against a full push. And it was a pretty easy round as soon as that was discovered.
I'm going to imagine here that this Capcan, as a side note, is probably going to be 6th picked off of, given that it's going to be rear stage and watchtower, but it's going to be their reason behind this. You had a Capcan in the first round. They're going to look at every single avenue to make sure that the EDDs aren't there. If they don't 6-pick off the Capcan, it's going to make them have to drone out every single doorway and ensure that there's no Capcan on the board. It's just a way to kill a little bit of time. Still, though, it's going to be a tower defense, which we've seen European teams do more often than most regions, especially North America. North America typically only goes to tower when they absolutely need to. Now, because Millenium hasn't won a defense yet, and we're only in the 2nd round, this is an optional site for them, and they're going to go to it, even though they are not required to do so. It will be interesting to see the way that EG decides to attack it and handle it, given that the region doesn't exactly give EG tons of experience to go off of.
We would have had to have scrimmed against it, but you're right. NA doesn't play tower all that often. It really just comes down to, oh, are we going to our 3rd site? Then maybe we'll play tower. Maybe we'll play kitchen.
Mostly play kitchen.
Mostly play kitchen in NA, but at the same time, still something that will sometimes happen. I'm sure EG is going to have some tools ready to deal with this this site. However, I can all but guarantee you their operator selection was not specifically cultivated to attack tower.
No, I mean, they've got tools nonetheless, as you said, right? You've got smokes available for you. You've got the E1Ds to keep everything in check. The thing is that BC's Buck doesn't really have a lot of things to do because very little of tower/rear stage is going to be destructible. It's mostly all concrete. He does, however, have some frag grenades. Canadian, as the Twitch, trying to work his way in, will get peeked by Hicks, and in that engagement, Hicks will lose over half of his health, but he walks away with a kill.
Yeah. So, Twitch going down this early, not great. There is still mirror windows in play. Rise will get BC as he, for some reason, walks in through the main lobby, up the main stairs with no drones to speak of. And already, Evil Geniuses are struggling in this round. Millenium putting themselves at a distinct advantage early on.
In a position where you don't really need to worry about your execute on, or their execute onto the site. If you kill them before they actually make it to the site, it's a brilliant strategy when you really think about it.
Right.
One burst of the XK will be used of the 3 just to open up a small window in through the pantry wall towards Meeting Hall. You got Renshiro playing up top as the Bandit, could potentially go for a late push through Meeting if he needs to, as he's up in Attic. We're just watching that one hatch. Can drop at any real point. Because of the way that Millenium is playing, you can tell how uncertain and how specific Evil Geniuses wants to be on its information gathering. Not less than usual, but they're spending a lot of time to drone everything out and make sure that they're not going to be surprised, because they've basically been ambushed twice now for both of Millennium's kills.
Drone going out.
Slow push here from EG. EE1D to force the player in Harry Potter to stand still. Very dangerous spot for Hicks to be playing, but he's making it work. Just needs to stall out a little bit longer. He's even got a C4 to boot. And these barricades are making it so Harry Potter becomes a bit of a bunker position. You can see that MVK is just going to continue looking for this very same fight. He doesn't have a drone really to pressure, and nor do his teammates. Young will take out Rise. I believe that's at the top of the tower. And Hicks hits the long shot onto MVK. Live in with a shotgun on Necrox, and Renshiro will get the final kill. Evil Geniuses shut down as expected following those 2 early kills. And I think your hypothesis at the beginning of the round was definitely correct, which is EG just doesn't know how to handle a tower defense. No,
it definitely didn't look like they knew. I mean, I'm sure EG does, but knowing how to do it than actually executing it are different things, right?
True, true.
Because I know Evil Geniuses, if they rewatch the broadcast, will probably say, yeah, of course we know how to attack tower.
Yes, I know,
yes, we know,
Troy.
We know you know how to attack tower. That's not what we're trying to say.
In that moment, okay, man?
Okay? Listen to us. Here, this is a message for you. It definitely looked like they were caught with their pants down from the way that Millenium played. Just completely took the fight to them, and that angle from Rise all the way up in tower through that armory window onto the main stairs onto BC was an incredible shot in all reality. And those, like you said, those 2 opening picks, you knew that the round was pretty much going to go this way. I think it was pretty close to saying that it was over before it even started.
No, definitely. I mean, I think another thing, Evil Geniuses weren't really expecting there to be so much pressure over by the main lobby. That's the way it looked to me, because they were pushing a lot of people into the building without actually droning them in first.
Right.
Every single push that EG was committing to, or at least the ones that we managed to catch on camera, it seemed like they were just doing it raw dog, and that's very dangerous. You really can't be going in with just your face and
face check,
and no.
If we can use a term from another genre of video game.
And no drones.
They did spend a lot of time droning afterwards, as I made mention of, and now it looks like Renshiro might actually go for a spawn peek. Won't connect with any of those shots. Of course, if he hits a headshot, doesn't matter how much damage drop-off there is on the Vector, which for the record is quite a lot. But he just needs to hit one shot.
Though, bro.
Headshots are instant kills,
name of the game,
you know. But he's got his position here inside of Kitchen. He's got his mirror window and expecting likely to have a push. This is what I like to see from Millenium. They are being very, very aggressive. Falco with the Bandit M870. That's the shotgun that the GS-G9 can run. And once again, they're going to have Falco in a very similar spot. He's going to be playing downstairs inside of showers or inside a bathroom with a shotgun at his disposal. Last time it was a Capkin. This time it's going to be a bit of a faster operator. And speaking of, NVK the Lion will not be able to catch his prey at all. Rise, the ultimate hunter. The Jaeger will get the kill, and that will be a Millenium opening things up. Once again, Evil Genius is losing a body in the first 45 seconds. We saw how it went last round. For them, you gotta hope it doesn't happen again.
A pretty important body at that. MVK on the line of all operators. Here come the flashes pre-lined up from Young. Those are going to pop right next to anybody playing inside of the mirror on Kitchen, and that will be Renshiro. He was blinded very likely for a moment, but he's got support, so it's not going to matter much. See the Jaeger of Rise able to deny the push, and Renshiro will just throw C4 into the hallway, getting that kill. Canadian refrags onto Rise, and Young finally finishes off Renshiro following the successful Excaros. Now, Liven on low HP as well means Evil Geniuses have an advantage here. They've also got Falco somewhat trapped downstairs, but it looks like he's going to start moving his way onto the hallway. He has the shotgun out, and BC is ready to shut him down as he attempts to rotate. Canadian also gets Hicks rotating out of Attic, and this has been a fortunate series of events here for EG, and the very opposite for Millenium. Liven, the last player alive, has just a single bullet's worth of HP. He'll go down easy.
How fitting that you would title this after a kids novel in which the scene that we are currently playing at is involving a kid's dorms.
Yes.
A kid's book. Very, very apropos, Michael.
I don't.
You're very welcome. Anywho, you can see that Canadian is going to shove a couple of those lifelines down the hallway, and Evil Geniuses will storm small dorms. Liven, who had only a fraction of health, trapped and unable to move, as he does try to wander away. Right there. Pops up over the hutch, and it's Canadian to clean up. And this will give Evil Geniuses the lead once again on a much stronger round this time. Even though they lost Lion early, even though they trailed at one point in a 3-5, they were able to keep that momentum going. Falco ended up being almost completely excluded from any real action. Didn't get to see any M870 action.
True. Millenium has yet to win a site that makes sense. They managed to get a tower victory, but they've gone top floor twice now, and Evil Geniuses has won both of those attacks. Laundry room, supply room going to be the next setting for this hold. Millenium trying to give themselves every edge they can and going somewhere different. Operator selection. All stands to reason. Nothing surprising at all on either team. Looks like we might have some drones heading towards construction, possibly a construction take. Although I don't know if EG is going to be mixing things up quite like that. To be fair, they are going for the same strategy over on the top take. When they're pushing for top west lobby, or sorry, not top west lobby, top west, and they're attacking dorms, they are kind of going for the double lane strategy. There are two of those on this map. There's attacking from west, junk tower, and then pushing up white stairs and going for the repels and such, or the west window. And there's pushing into the B site of the basement from construction and tower. These are the sort of strategies that kind of funnel you as an attacking squad.
Right.
And if they've been doing the one over on the west side, maybe they'll do the same now that they're attacking basement. It looks like they're droning for it.
Just in case anybody was curious, because it was almost deafening in here for a second, I believe Immortals just clutched around in their particular matchup against Element Mystic, and that is why you heard the explosion of noise from the Brazilian casters. So if you were curious as to what all that shouting was in the background, it was just some appreciation for a nice play, and it was by Yuki, actually, from Immortals, who was able to accomplish the clutch.
I'm sure we'll see the clip on the Rainbow Six Pro League subreddit some other time.
It was, I mean, I didn't get to see it, obviously, but this is just information that we have been given, but at the same time, still likely very impressive. And Immortals right now squaring off against Element Mystic in a knockout match. The loser of that will go home. The winner plays the loser of this matchup. So enjoy. You will get either Evil Geniuses or Millenium at your doorstep tomorrow.
Pretty hefty either way. Both teams been playing very well so far throughout this match. You can see Evil Geniuses are trying to take control of the top floor. Pretty standard fare here. Clear the roamers on the west side and force them back into sight. However, one has actually just managed to slip free. You might have noticed. It looks like we do have a roamer still at either the white stairs or near Junk Tower in that area. No, yeah, in Junk Tower it looks like. And that's a pretty dangerous position to be playing. Hicks, you could see there, the Legion. He's actually going to rotate out of it, back into lockers, but he is he is an X factor no matter how you look at it. He is going to be able to, at any moment, flank Evil Geniuses since they cleared this and they determined it was finished, and then they've moved on with their lives.
Rise also upstairs playing with a drop hatch available for him. You saw that Hicks was playing by those white stairs. We'll also get Rise rotating down too. So they're going to be up together. Who's watching flank here? And Falco, they're going to get 3 bodies onto NVK at the moment. He will use a Lion, but could potentially be taken out by Falco on the stairs, and that's exactly what happened. And NVK all on his own, entering solo. That is a lot of utility to possibly waste. He will be joined by Necrox as Renshiro will get a kill, and that is the Mira able to take out the Glaz. So those are 2 very important operators that Evil Geniuses has lost. BC, who we cannot tell you how good he is with these grenades. You can see it for yourself. He'll send one in and he'll take out Rise. And then Canadian with the lifelines going off to try and keep people from doing too much. The smoke under fire, Canadian just trying to get a couple shots in, but missing what he needs to hit. He gets traded off by a C4. Young gets Hicks, and we're actually at a 2v2. BC gets the plant down successfully before trying to go for a reload. Falco, last man standing. Will BC be picked back up? This is a good position for Young to be, but Renshiro does have that mirror there. He could conceivably see the feet of the Havana, but looks the wrong way. The Type 89 cannot land enough damage. Renshiro's planting. Young needs to get in. Renshiro will fall off. He's only got 1 shot left, but
no,
what a beat
Young!
from Renshiro. Young goes for the flash instead, and what should have been an easy round for EG. Renshiro, on a fraction of health, comes through in the clutch for Millenium, and they will tie things up.
May have noticed I screamed Young's name and
I did not.
Name.
I did not hear you yell. Sitting
the reason being
next to me
is that was entirely Young's round to lose. No.
I mean, he did lose it. You're right.
No, I mean, okay, so what do I mean by that? I mean, he had it in his hand, and unfortunately it slipped away. It's happened to the best of us. It's happened to Young now for the first time in my recollection. Unfortunate, but also a stellar clutch from Renshiro, perfectly timed. It could not have been better from Renshiro. And Young was up against a very fierce opponent.
I am troubled by that. That was that. I am troubled. I am very troubled.
Don't be troubled, Parker.
Great job, Renshiro, first and foremost, because obviously that's a huge moment. Can't take that away from him.
Nope.
But Young, just pull up the Bearing 9 and wait to listen to the sound.
It happens, man. It happens. It really does. He got a little bit ahead of himself. I gotta say, I know we've all done it before. And I don't remember the last time I saw Young make a mistake like that. So, yeah, and I mean that like very, very sincerely, and I've got a lot of experience with the guy, but I don't think it's a very uncommon mistake for him.
5 seconds to go.
But it happens.
I need to pay a shout out to whoever is currently running ESL Rainbow Six Twitter account.
Oh yeah?
Have you seen the memes that are coming out? Did you see the finger pens?
I don't really pay attention to Twitter.
You don't twat? You don't tweet?
I just don't do it.
Quote?
I don't use it very much.
You don't twoter?
I use it, but carry on with your story.
It's just they're good memes.
Oh,
they're good. They're good memes, man. If you go to twitter.com/ESL Rainbow Six, you see some spicy memes. It's the spice of our life, the flavor of the week.
That's good.
It's good. I just wanted to give credit because I don't know if it's ever been given credit for. I just think
follow ESL at ESL Rainbow Six. Make sure you get some of those spicy memes.
The spicy memes.
Yeah, you enjoy them. You like them.
Who eats food without spices? Nobody, unless you have dietary restrictions. And then,
yeah.
Then you. I feel like we just inadvertently made fun of people who.
What are you talking about? We're just like this is your observations here, Parker.
Anywho, 1 minute into round number 5. This is the first half coming to a close. And we are back on tower. Last time around, we saw Millenium taking the fight to Evil Geniuses very early on, and we're able to get 2 early kills that were knocking Evil Geniuses on their heels. Liven is flirting right now with running outside and possibly going for not necessarily a spawn peek, but possibly a kill on an unsuspecting member of Evil Geniuses. A lot of investment from Millenium in that attic, as you just saw. 2 members as well as a Miro window, and now just 1 as it's Renshiro, who's army crawling his way through with the open hatch into mid.
Very dangerous position to contest. The nades from BC this time will not hit. He's still got another to use, but the first one will be a dud. As he drops off the angle, he's going to choose to save it for later. Probably the right call here. I like the position that Hicks is playing. He's playing Valkyrie as an operator, which means he can influence the rest of the map from that hold, but he's also denying the flank from below. And he did it very well in the previous tower defense for Millenium. He's likely going to be able to pull it off yet again. Evil Geniuses still look a little bit puzzled here with this tower defense. EE1D used here, but not really for anything in particular. Renshiro's going to get Necrox, so the Glaz taken down with only 35 seconds left. Young is going to refrag immediately on to Liven. And he also has opened up a rotation into the attic.
I don't think they know that there's a body of Millenium playing at the top tower. They may suspect it, but don't have confirmation. Canadians' lifelines, proximity-based, do not go off, so they might think that they are free to push in. And that could be somebody perched up top, poised to strike at any moment. Here comes the final push, though. 10 seconds left, and there's control of the main landing. BC gets 1 as the EE1D keeps them in place. BC will go for a second as NVK gets 1, and this will be no luck on this defender. Hold on tower whatsoever. Rise jumps out, gets Canadian, but it's about 3/4 of the diffuser left, and 3 members of Evil Geniuses. Obviously, whichever team does prevail will walk through this split, successfully holding on to 3 of those 5 rounds. Rise through the open spot from above, but he jumps down! Rise! Oh my god, he's got 1 left. Where is NVK playing? But the dream will die on the backstage. There will be no theatrics this time as NVK gets the final kill in the first half. Rise almost pulls it out, but denied. What a play to get the kill, shoot the Claymore, get intact, get inside intact. But no, Nathan Valenti says, no thanks, not this time.
Solid clutch there from NVK, a nice try from Rise as well. Almost saw another upset from Millenium. Young did a whole heck of a lot of work there, clearing his way through attic and disabling a lot of the vertical control. He also opened up the attic mirror window inside of tower, which is a huge thing to deal with. Because he was able to do that, it meant that his teammates didn't have any vertical pressure as they were pushing into the main landing and planting that diffuser. It also didn't look like Millenium was paying much attention to that main landing. They were mostly focused on the top of tower and the bottom of tower. When BC found his way in between them, he drove a wedge in the defense.
The only person from Millenium that looked like they were possibly watching the lower half of the tower by the rear stage was the Mira, but when the EE1D went, the Mira was positioned behind the stairs and couldn't cover where the push was coming from. You had the Valkyrie also immobilized, so the 2 people from Millenium who could have possibly pushed up to stop that, as Evil Geniuses literally cleaved right through them, literally could not move. And then EG was just able to take all that ground away from them, get the plant off. As Millenium tried to transfer from the pre-plant to post-plant, they got caught, and EG just punished them. And even though Rise came so close, so close, that's not really, you can't really build a defense around what he did. In my opinion, Michael.
In your opinion?
In my opinion.
Okay. Evil Geniuses now going on to defense after winning the first half on their attack. And they will be starting with the top floor. Now, looks like Millenium's going to be doing a very different strategy compared to what we were seeing from EG. EG chose to do the west side attack, and Millenium, on the other hand, looking to clear in through Master and Armory, though they have plenty of time to change their minds should they choose. There's not a whole lot of options in terms of attack strategies onto this top floor. Well, really, there's like 3 general ones, right? You're going to be coming from the west, you're be coming from the east, or you're going to come from the north windows and tower. Apart from that, you're kind of limited. You can do a mixture of each of those as well. Not really forced into any one in particular. You could see that Millenium's just going to be mostly committed to the Master, Armory, and potentially trying to shove maybe Falco underneath and play some vertical game. You see they're actually going to be clearing out Kitchen as a first priority. Usually you clear Kitchen from the west side, but they're choosing to clear it from the east. It's a little bit dangerous, especially considering Canadians there with a heartbeat detector. He's going to be able to call all of this out. He can undoubtedly already see Rise through the wall inside a classroom.
Troy/Canadian playing Pulse on this map provides so much information and intel to their team. It's absolutely vital that he stays alive for, you know, past usually the 2-minute round. For a second there, it looked like he might actually wander his way over right into the sights of Liven, but no, that's not going to be the case. He's going to retreat, but he's still a man on the move, and you can see how much of an investment Millenium is making in trying to determine the location of the Pulse. Hicks has opened up that closet wall into Generator and can try to get the plant down really at any time, but he's going to be doing so with no backing whatsoever, knowing also there's still a Pulse on the loose. Look at that, they'll double up. NVK with Canadian. Name a better duo. Rise takes out NVK, but Canadian's still on the run, knowing that as long as he can waste time here, he's in really good shape with 40 seconds. The Zofia of Rise almost gets Canadian. He'll have to peel off, but it does look like they will pinch him successfully. That's Liven getting the kill.
So apparently Rise and Liven the better duo in that engagement. BC from Junk Tower able to get Liven. 23 seconds left though, and Millenium are the ones at the disadvantage here. Again, the two main positions are still in play here for EG. Top of White and Dorm. C4 from Young, really poorly placed. Falco coming up the white stairs will be able to shut him down as well. And now just Necrox and BC. Necrox going to get Falco. They need to stop the defuse plant though, going down inside of Generator, and they'll be unsuccessful in that endeavor. Millenium able to get it, but they do have very little HP on both of their players. And see, they're not going to be peeking any angles because they don't have the HP to do that. Rise will eat even more damage from the gas canister. BC inching in for a potential defuse disable in the hallway. Rise will win that fight. Oh no! And BC hits the second shot. So it's all up to Hicks in the 1 versus 1, but with so little HP, he's going to get shot in the foot and down. BC with the 1 versus 2 clutch, and he will disable the diffuser, putting Evil Geniuses up 4-2.
Bomb diffuser disabled by Defender.
Oh my goodness. 2 rounds back-to-back that just are heart stoppers for both of these teams, and I think Millenium realizing that momentum could potentially slip away at this current moment as they trail 2-4, they're going to take a tactical pause. A right time to do so. That was so close to being Millenium's, and this is a totally different ball game if that goes in their favor. The real killer was the fact that the 2 members of Millenium were both so low on HP.
Yeah.
They only were 1 shot. It doesn't really matter where you shoot them. They're dead no matter what. And you can tell. Try not to read too much into it. It's not happy faces at that bench right now. Liven in particular, obviously the frustration for somebody who expects to, achieve better than Fabian, as is
the best player.
As Fabian is the greatest player in the world, according to Fabian.
And Liven is the best player in the world, according to Liven.
That is correct. It's funny how that works.
It's insane.
But if I'm looking at Millenium right now, it's tough to really diagnose what is going wrong. I will tell you this much, that they don't look like the same Millenium that took the title in DreamHack Austin.
No.
They don't look as aggressive. A lot of times they seem to be struggling in the mid-round to the later rounds and closing things out. I don't know if it's the calling that might not be there. I don't know if it's just simply that, they might be trying to enact a strategy that only 4 of the 5 of them fully understand. And that has nothing to do with Falco as a person, just simply that he is that new addition to the team, and getting up to speed can take longer than, the couple days / weeks before the Paris Major actually started.
You have to break in your players. Break a couple legs, maybe some fingers, and get them used to the team.
I mean, I don't think advocating for physically harming your players, Michael, is...
Break a leg, bro.
You said break some fingers.
I didn't say that.
I'm no fingerologist, but if you're breaking people's fingers,
I did
Michael...
not say that. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say anything along those lines.
Sure you did.
I do not advocate physical violence.
Sure you did.
Evil Geniuses now going to the defense of the basement, saying that it is in fact a good site, and choosing to defend it.
They've successfully won Dorm, so if they win on Laundry Room, Supply Room here, it will put them on match point. However, it will give them the task of having to defend either Kitchen or Tower for 1 round in particular. Obviously, if they lose, Millenium closes the gap a little bit more before tying it up at 4-4 if they make it to that point. It's going to be probably a pretty routine meeting hall strategy. Let's open up the one meeting hall hatch. There it is. They'll probably put NVK somewhere back on the rear stage because when Vigil's cloaking gadget goes off either in attic or over by the rear stage / back tower, I think it's important to note that there is a height limit to Vigil's gadget too. So if he is situated on an area where there could potentially be another level above him, you have to go and invest time to find him physically because you can't narrow it down with a drone every single time. That's a good position for Vigil to play in, and that's why we often see him playing over in the back of tower because, yeah, it takes a while for you to figure out where he is. All the rest will be used and designed to try and keep people from breaking into meeting hall, wear them down, grind them down, deplete their gadgetry before they can actually get towards attacking the site.
So Millenium seems to want to go for a main lobby take. They've got the Capitao for it, which is one of the most essential operators on this push, especially if you don't have a Dokabi, who was banned by Millenium earlier. They've also banned out Mute at the beginning of the match, which means that, yeah, their clear focus when attacking the basement is going to be main lobby, which is likely going to lead Evil Geniuses to stack up heavy on this main lobby, which is pretty typical, of course, because it's a standard attack strategy, but, you know, there's a difference between typical and broadcasting your intention. And Millenium has clearly broadcasted at the very beginning of the match with those bans that, yeah, they want to attack main lobby. Now, they're going to be using the flashbangs just to clear out any potential ADSs. There are none for Evil Geniuses, but of course Millenium can't know that because the 6th pick exists.
This might actually be set up to be a very brisk push. If they use this correctly, they could send I mean, as you said, there's no ADSs. They could send a frag grenade in. They could possibly launch in the Capitao bolts and then just lie in and drop. They could completely ignore the meeting hall here, but it does look like Liven might actually try to use that asphyxiating bolt on a very tight angle to catch NVK. There is an area or a radius around that, but no. NVK will not be damaged by it.
Oh, no.
But they missed the firebolt. It'll actually prevent them from dropping down the hatch in case NVK tries to rotate. Everybody from Millenium is in. Is it going to be rebuffed? Canadian will lead things off by taking out Falco as he tries to work his way around the floor. The diffuser will go down successfully, so EG is in a much tougher predicament than they were just a moment or so ago. Liven takes out NVK and Young down to Renshiro 2. Canadian with 2 now as Renshiro falls. And Liven will get shredded as he tries to work his way towards the hatch. That's Necrox. He knows he's got another playing inside of Garage. Hicks trying to hold the tight angle with Rise still up. There will be a reset as BC gets picked up from Canadian. Time is running out. They will have to start to defuse at some point. Canadian pulls out the diffuser knowing that somebody from Millenium will have to push in, but nobody right now knows it. They have taken 7 seconds to get that diffuser, and Canadian will do it as 2 members of EG waste time. Good teamwork. Canadian with the diffuse, nobody to read it, and that is match point for Evil Geniuses.
That is demoralizing to the extreme right there. Necrox pretty much single-handedly distracting 2 opponents, one in Garage, one in the kitchen hallway, while his teammate Canadian just hits the disable. It's such a simple play, but when it works against you, it's hard to recover from that mentally. Tactical pause for Evil Geniuses. They want to sure things up and really finish things off as they are now on match point, series point.
And that would be putting them through to the quarterfinals as well. So far, the only 2 teams that have made it through to the quarterfinals, Vitality and G2, are European teams. Of course, Millenium wanted to join them, but the North Americans are within a striking position. How remarkable would that be if Team Secret had a win yesterday and they would have gone up against FaZe today? You actually could have seen the 4 teams potentially all been European to secure their spots, but no.
Aren't 6 of the teams here European as well?
Yep. 6 of the 8 European Pro League teams are currently at this event.
Wow, it's a pretty extreme. I mean, it's a European event. Makes sense.
I mean, it also shows the dominance of what has historically been the strongest region in all of Pro League, with the exception of Season 3 and the first Invitational. Every single international event has been won by a European team, except for Liquid. which was won in Season 7. So you look at Season 3 Invitational, every single event, including the 2 DreamHacks, and then, of course, Season 7, the sole Latin America title, too. APAC still searching, obviously, for a title there. They will have another chance with Fnatic, as Fnatic had defeated Mocket. Norarengo will have a chance as well as they go up against Obey tomorrow in what will be 2 rematches for APAC, and then Element Mystic in a heated contest with Immortals right now.
Yeah. And Evil Genius just needs to win one of the next 3 rounds, and they're done with this matchup. They will be going to Tower. Look at that. Tower coming from EG. We saw 1 successful Tower hold from Millenium and 1 failure from them. And EG going to emulate just a little bit here. Or maybe they had it already pre-planned. I mean, it is the 3rd site. They did successfully defend the top floor and the bottom floor, which means they have to go to either Tower or Kitchen.
Right.
And EG has decided to lean Tower. I mean, honestly, between Tower and Kitchen, I can't say which one's better. People seem to prefer Tower these days. In the past, they preferred Kitchen. I don't know. It's all over the place.
Here's what I suspect we're going to see from EG. I thought that NVK was going to be playing up on the Tower side of things, but I was absolutely incorrect. He played more in the front of Meeting Hall last round. I suspected that he would probably play up top in the upper areas of Tower with an ADS or 2. I'm not entirely certain. For Millenium, who would have thought that Coastline would have been their best performance? They have not looked anywhere near as sharp on Oregon as we could have expected. Making me eat my words yesterday when I said that EG happens to be a team whose Oregon is not quite strong enough. Well, I mean, it's pretty strong right now. I think what this has really shown, though, is that Millenium still has a lot of things to work on, and that this isn't exactly the same commanding performance we've seen of them in previous seasons and in Pro League, as well as the DreamHacks.
Also, teams' favorite and least favorite maps change rapidly in this game. You can't always just dislike Oregon, and you can't always like Oregon. Things are going to shift, and that's exactly what might be happening with EG, especially considering, again, we have to come back to the role swaps. I mean, we all know that's a broadcasted change that they went through, and that could very well make them better at certain maps and worse at others. Necrox very aggressive here on the main lobby, a huge risk, and it does not pay off. He does a little bit of damage to Renshiro, but ultimately loses his life for naught. And NVK trying his best to recover a little bit of the efficiency there, but he cannot make it happen.
It's a quick pace from Millenium, though. You saw they were able to get their way into the main lobby. They're now using an exothermic charge. It sounds like they blew up the wall into Attic, if that's the case, possibly opening it up. That is exactly what they did, so they can now get a clearer line of sight all the way down. EG will be foregoing the Mira here, obviously, as it is not reinforced at the other side of the wall. Of course, there is reinforcements there, though, so they will have to burn a possible second exothermic charge. Young will get a quick drop down the hatch as he sees the sledge from above, and able to crawl underneath that doorway, still giving the appearance that it's closed. As Millenium are really getting close here. Just 1 minute left to go, and what could possibly be the decider as to which of these teams actually makes it into the quarterfinals.
Now Millenium have Attic control, and they're going to start their push. They have a soft wall they can open up whenever they need to, and a sledge to use on that soft wall, but NVK has gotten the Zofia, which means the projectile soft destruction has been dealt with. You can see Evil Geniuses, even man count now after that kill. And with only 35 seconds left, all they need to do is wait in this situation. It's a very good line of sight to cut off rotation from downstairs up in Attic, but I don't know if it's really going to matter much. There's only 1 defender downstairs, that's NVK. E1D coming up following the thermite charge. What a shot from Young. Hey, ED1D will not be utilized at all. And another amazing shot from Young. The diffuser has been downed. NVK also gets Hicks, leaving Falco, the final attacker, the newest member on the roster. He goes for an explosive entrance, but it does not see success. BC locks it out, and Evil Geniuses win the series.